Do you want an amazing marriage? Are you ready to take your marriage to the next level? Then stick around for Your Marriage Matters podcast with marriage coach Lynn. Let's put some fun and sizzle into your relationship.
Hi everybody. Today's episode is prompted by various listeners who have asked, a couple of people have asked the question, what do I do if I married a narcissist? And this is a very serious topic that we will delve into today. I'm going to have more questions and ideas for you than I will have an answer for you. So let's jump in. Does your spouse bring out the worst in you, spin you in circles? Do you feel you have a chaotic relationship? Does your spouse break his or her word, manipulate, bait you? Your spouse doesn't have your best interests at heart? Is he or she detached, have a selfish agenda, self-centered, jealous, envy, vindictive, flattery? Is your spouse a taker? Is your spouse putting on a facade and is pretentious and a predator? Okay, how about publicly your spouse will present a certain relationship that is nothing that goes on behind closed doors? Does your spouse have a lack of empathy and no remorse? Does your spouse leave you vulnerable and drain you and make you feeling dry? In the past, I recommended to people to look at the bigger picture and to be careful of generalizations. We have this word narcissist, and you really have to have a good understanding of what you're talking about. The definition of covert and overt narcissist, there's just many different varieties of narcissism out there. And in the past, I would have said, well, you have a covenant, you have a commitment, you've taken vows, and have hope, and try to find a solution. Try to look for the blind spots that are going on. And I would have said to love your narcissist no matter what. And then I did several months of intense research on narcissism, and I was very discouraged and disturbed about what I found. What I found was that a narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is listed in the DSM-5. And the DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And 5 just means that this is the 5th edition. This came out in the year 2013. The mental health professionals will update this manual every so often as they add new disorders and further refine and define more specifically other disorders. So in the DSM-5, the NPD is listed as a personality disorder. So let's just talk a couple of seconds about what we're talking about. A personality disorder is something that is pretty much unchangeable in people's opinions. You can't really change your personality. A mental illness is something that can be managed by a psychiatrist with drugs, pharmaceuticals. If something's behavioral, we can have a lot of hope for that and hope to work on making a change. But when we're talking about personality disorder, what I was discouraged was that I checked into a lot of experts, read a lot of books, looked at different experts in the field, psychologists, psychiatrists, even Christian psychologists. And I found that almost 100% of them says, don't date a narcissist. It's just, there's no hope for change, because what happens is usually the personality disorder takes hold and takes root when a child is young, and it has to do with an attachment malfunction and disorder that usually prompts a narcissistic personality disorder. So what do you do if you've married and you have these vows? I did find one psychologist who said that there is hope for minimal to moderate improvement, and that you try to help the narcissist work on empathy, and you work on them having empathy by appealing to their self-interests. So what do we do with this? What we're going to do today is I'm going to give you a little definition of the narcissistic personality disorder. We're not going to go into all the different types. At the end of this podcast, if you go to my YouTube channel, I will put up some book recommendations and some YouTube channels and some people that are very helpful, that can be very helpful if you are struggling with narcissism. If you're married, if you're struggling with narcissism, you're probably not going to admit it. I don't know if you'll recognize it, but if you feel that your partner is narcissistic, perhaps some of these materials that I share with you can be of greater help. I want to say that I'm not an expert in this, and I do want to say that if you do have a situation with narcissism, don't go to any old counselor, no marriage counselor. You need to find someone who has expertise and who has dealt with this situation, with handling this situation, and who has a good grasp of what's going on. So let me just read some of the criteria of what the narcissistic personality disorder is. So here are some features. Having an exaggerated sense of self-importance. 2. Expecting to be recognized as superior even without achievements that warrant it. 3. Exaggerating your achievements and talents. 4. Being preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate. 5. Narcissistic personality disorder people believe that you are superior and can only be understood by or associate with equally special people. That's absolutely, the superiority complex is definitely an obvious one in most of the narcissists. Next one, requiring constant admiration. 7. Having a sense of entitlement. 8. Expecting special favors and unquestioning compliance with your expectations. It's like the world revolves around me. 9. Taking advantage of others to get what you want. The manipulation, the manipulative behaviors. 10. Having an inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. And that's tough. That's where we get into someone not having an interest in you and just not caring. 11. Being envious of others and believing others envy you. And 12. Behaving in an arrogant or haughty manner. Now, if your spouse has almost all of these or most of these, you might be onto something with narcissism. But if you only see one or two glaring examples, you need to dig further and you need to be careful about putting this label of narcissism on somebody. Well, so what can you do if you married a narcissist? Many things. You can do nothing. And while you're doing nothing, you can pray, you can meditate, you can educate yourself. And again, take a look at the end of this podcast. I will put some information up there on my YouTube channel, Marriage Coach Lynn. So you can gather information. You can assess what is going on if your partner really is a narcissist. And or while you're doing nothing, you can work on trying to accept this person. 2, what you can do if you married a narcissist, you can try to change your partner or influence them. You can educate your partner. Or 3, you can change and educate yourself. Right? That's really how we can turn things around in our lives, by working on ourselves and how we respond and react. The 4th thing you can do if you think you've married a narcissist, you can decide to separate from your partner. You can have a trial separation if it's just too outlandish for you to continue in this relationship. 5, you can seek counseling from a skilled professional. Very important that they are highly skilled in narcissism. And 6, you can stay in the marriage. And so what else can you think of that you can do if you married a narcissist? So please think of your options and take your time on this. You want to consider your vows, your commitment. You want to consider, have I been in an abusive situation with a narcissist? And also consider what you have invested. What have you invested in this marriage, in this relationship? And is it worth it to continue? At a future date, I'm going to talk about communication in some podcast episodes, but for now, I'd like to mention to you an awesome doctor, psychologist by the name of Marshall Rosenberg, and he developed the concept of nonviolent communication. And basically, there's 4 steps to nonviolent communication. You can try using this communication technique with your spouse and to see how far you get with that. And you can look it up online and take a look at it. I also have it on my website, Marriage Coach Lynn, at the back and at the end of the, let's see, in the resources section. So what you do in this type of communication is, 1, you state your observation. 2, you state your feelings to your partner. 3, you state your needs. And 4, you state your requests. And you use a lot of I statements. You don't say, well, you this, you that. What you need to do is change. You focus on yourself and you're expressing what it is that you need to your partner in hopes that he or she will respond to what you are talking about. Now, what you could do is you can call out the narcissistic behavior. And I want to ask you, have you been fair with the narcissist? Have you expressed yourself, and have you stood up for yourself? Have you explicitly expressed your expectations? And think about this. Is peace with your narcissist possible? The important thing to think about in the whole situation also is, what are you feeling? Get in touch with your experience. I want you to focus on yourself more than on the narcissist. Now, sure, we could call the narcissist all kinds of names. I know that some people have thought their narcissist were soul-sapping, slithering, selfish snakes. And it's been very, very difficult being on the other end of a narcissist, especially a covert narcissist. There's a big difference between overt and covert narcissist. I know that I won't mention which presidential election, but in a presidential election, I thought to myself, wow, we have a choice between an overt narcissist and a covert narcissist in the two main parties. Oh, very difficult. The covert narcissist is really a force that can really knock you down. And if they've been a covert narcissist for their whole life, they are highly skilled, and the average person is just not a match for the covert narcissist. When you do your research on narcissism, you'll find codependent. A codependent hooks up with a narcissist, and that when the codependent starts becoming smart to the narcissist and wants to use some of the tricks and tactics to throw back into the covert narcissist's face, it often doesn't work, and it's just extremely difficult. You're playing a game with somebody who has just been operating in this way for many years usually. What would it accomplish, though, to call your narcissist names? Maybe a momentary satisfaction, because what you're feeling is you're feeling disempowered. You're feeling like a second-class citizen, that you don't matter, that you're a nobody, that you're with somebody who's arrogant, manipulative, flat out mean, and doesn't care and isn't interested in you. So throughout this process, you do need radical forgiveness. There are a lot of people who think forgiveness is something that is earned and deserved, that the person who doesn't have any remorse and that doesn't care about you is not entitled to forgiveness. But I have to say that forgiveness can be given freely to anybody, and it's very hard. And if you have a resigned forgiveness, that's not what I'm talking about. Resignation means you still have contempt and you still have resentment and you're just giving up and giving in. But a detached forgiveness is trying to reach in the kindness of your heart and trying to forgive this person who possibly has a personality disorder that may or may not be developed through his or her fault of their own. Okay, it just kind of becomes a reaction to something that happened in childhood. So it's very hard to connect with the narcissist, and forgiveness is an important thing to do. And what you're going to want to do is transform and transcend over what's going on. And let me see, I think I have a quote to share with you from Michael A. Singer from the book Untethered Soul. Come from a space of peace and you'll find that you can deal with anything. If you truly love someone, your love sees past their humanness. And so sometimes it's very important for us to remember that you can still love your narcissist, you can still try to work through this. I would say if you're dating a person that you recognize as a covert narcissist, to drop that dating situation. You're not going to get very far with a covert narcissist. An overt narcissist, you can deal with much better. But again, please delve into researching this topic on your own. I hesitate to give advice, and you're just going to have to figure out in your marriage situation what you can do, what you're willing to tolerate, assess how much hope there is for change or for dealing with the situation. In our marriage, we're trying to create unity. We're not trying to be separated. We're trying to be united. We don't want to ignore, run away, or avoid. We want to create a shift in the energy to have a unity in the marriage. And my heart goes out to you if you are dealing with a narcissistic situation. Again, please work on yourself. Remember, when you go on a plane, they'll say, in event of an emergency and the need of oxygen mask, put your mask on first before others. So try to work on yourself, making yourself stronger, understanding what is going on with narcissism, and seek to love yourself and take care of yourself. Because if you are enmeshed with a narcissistic personality, that means there's some level of codependency. There's going to be work you have to do on yourself, and that trying to clear your mind, body, and soul will get you very far in this whole dynamic. And when you accept what is, you surrender, and you actually find relief in that, and that you're looking for a deeper universal love. So try to take your pain and work with it and work through it. And at some point, maybe you can let it go. You can send it up and out. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember going through a bank line. Let's say you're going through the drive-through at a bank. They had these little tubes that you would put your deposit slip or whatever it was. You put it in this tube and you just send it up and away. And so that's what you can do with any negative energy or some of your pain, to send it up and away, and to try to work on having positive energy. So friends, I wanted to say that narcissism is complex and painful. It really is. And I hope that what I've shared today has been helpful. I wish you the best if you are dealing with this situation. And until next time, please make your marriage great.